Lisa realized that something strange was happening to her body. At first, she ignored the 6 small symmetrical bumps on her stomach, thinking they were just signs of aging. But the changes continued. A small tail began to grow at the base of her spine, accompanied by a tuft of white fur that suddenly appeared on her back. Lisa grew more anxious when she saw white hairs sprouting on her face. Her teeth were also slowly changing, looking sharper than before. Her body no longer felt human. Lisa realized she was slowly turning into a dog. However, instead of feeling scared or hopeless, this transformation gave her the freedom she had longed for. Filled with excitement, Lisa ran wild through the streets, feeling the wind rush against her body. For the first time, she felt free from monotonous routines and the pressures of everyday life. Lisa used to be a famous artist who ran an art gallery. But everything changed after she got married and had a child. She left the art world to become a full-time housewife. One day, while shopping at the supermarket with her child, Lisa ran into Sally, a former friend who now managed the art gallery that once belonged to her. "How does it feel to spend time at home with your child? It must be wonderful, right?" Sally said with a knowing smile. Lisa could only hold herself back, even though something inside her felt like it was about to explode. "Quite the opposite," Lisa replied quietly. "It feels like being trapped in a prison of my own making. I torment myself every day until I'm completely exhausted." That encounter reminded Lisa of her forgotten dreams. But reality said otherwise. After returning home, she sank back into her dull routine, cooking, feeding her child, and going to the same park every day. Her life felt trapped in a never-ending cycle. Lisa's passion for life slowly faded, and her body began to lose its shape. Despite everything, Lisa tried to find a glimmer of hope. One weekend, she took her son to a baby library. There, she met a few other mothers. One of them asked if Lisa was an artist, sparking a conversation about art. They quickly realized they shared the same interests. But before they could talk more, their children became fussy and their time ran out. They agreed to meet again next week, though Lisa knew it would only be a brief pause in the middle of her routine. The following days returned to an exhausting routine. Her child's cries and tantrums completely overwhelmed her. Even so, Lisa still felt love when her son fell asleep on her chest, even if that happiness was only temporary. The strange changes in her body started happening again. This time, Lisa found a tuft of white hair growing on her back. At first, she thought it was just a sign of aging, but this felt different. When she told her husband, Will, about it, he dismissed it as her being overly anxious and told her not to worry about it. That night, while brushing her teeth, Lisa and Will got into another argument. Lisa wanted to find a part-time job to feel alive again, but Will said the money she would make wouldn't be enough to cover childcare costs. He asked her to hold on a little longer, at least until their child started kindergarten. The next day, Will finally spent time at home, but instead of helping, he only made Lisa more frustrated with his endless requests. Lisa felt like a small fire inside her was starting to grow. A low growl escaped her throat. But she held it back, not wanting to make things worse. That night, their child cried loudly again. Exhausted and overwhelmed with emotions, Lisa lost control. She woke Will up to calm their child. The changes happening to her, both physically and mentally, were becoming harder to control. After enjoying his short 4-day break, Will had to leave for another business trip. As he said goodbye, Lisa forced a smile while seeing him off, even though deep inside, she might have wanted to let her feelings out, maybe even with a slap. But of course, she held herself back. To pass the time, Lisa took her son to the playground. But that day felt different. Several dogs suddenly approached them. The dogs seemed so excited, as if they carried a kind of happiness that had long been missing from Lisa's life. Their presence reminded her of her childhood. Lisa remembered moments from her childhood, singing songs of gratitude with her mother. But in the middle of their song, she noticed tears shimmering in her mother's eyes. Her mother had almost become a famous singer in Europe. But all those dreams ended when she got married and chose to be a housewife. That afternoon, Lisa spent time painting with her son. They had so much fun that everything became a mess. Paint spilled everywhere, even on Lisa's body. Amid the chaos, she tripped, and the night ended with her crying alone while cleaning the house until late. In the silence of the night, her mind drifted to old memories. Lisa recalled moments before her mother passed away. Once, she had seen her mother hiding behind the bushes, crying quietly. While looking in the mirror after tidying up, Lisa noticed a strange lump near her tailbone. Curious, she took a needle, disinfected it, and pricked the lump. A large amount of white fluid came out, along with a few strands of hair. Lisa thought it was just folliculitis and didn't think much of it. The next day, Lisa went to the supermarket as usual, but this time, her sense of smell felt incredibly sharp. With just a sniff, she could recognize the ingredients in the cheese on display. After returning home, Lisa opened her old articles. A wave of sadness washed over her as she reminisced about the past and everything she had once written. That night, the sound of barking dogs woke her up. When Lisa opened the door, she was shocked to see many dogs sitting outside her house. Some of them were the same dogs she had met at the park. As she approached, they got excited, even tugging at her clothes. The next morning, Lisa went back to her cooking routine. She assumed the events of the night before had just been a dream. But then, her son came in holding a rat, shocking her. When she went to throw it away, she found several animal carcasses in front of her door. Were the dogs real, and had they brought back their hunt along with her? Confused, Lisa went to the library to find answers. There, the librarian recommended a mythology book. As she read it, she dozed off and dreamed of becoming a bird-like woman, just as depicted in the book. But the dream was cut short when her son woke her up. In the following days, Lisa started feeling changes in her body. While eating at a restaurant, she found herself eating with her son like a dog. People around them started giving odd looks, though some tried to join in, pretending it was just playing around with their kids. When Will returned from his business trip, Lisa decided to take a shower. But as she looked in the mirror, she was shocked to find 6 symmetrical lumps on her stomach. Her anxiety grew worse. That night, her son refused to sleep, adding more pressure on Lisa. When she tried to distract herself by reading the mythology book again, she came across a story about Sarama, a female dog who served the war god Indra in Indian mythology. Sarama was known as the mother of all clawed creatures. Memories of her mother flashed through her mind. Lisa recalled how her mother had once run through the forest at night, like a wild dog. Back then, Lisa thought it was just a strange game, but now, it was starting to feel like a clue. The next day, Lisa's family visited a natural history museum. As they walked around, Lisa took the opportunity to talk to her husband about the feelings she had been keeping to herself. She expressed how the monotonous routine of life had made her feel distant from who she used to be. A passionate artist. She told Will that she wanted to start doing things that made her happy again. Will just listened with a hard-to-read expression. After returning home, Lisa once again got lost in the mythology book that had been consuming her attention lately. While reading, she caught the faint sound of barking outside. Curious, she stepped out into the backyard. Without realizing it, she lay down on the grass, feeling the breeze against her skin. She even instinctively dug into the dirt with her bare hands, as if something was buried beneath that she needed to find. That night, something strange happened. Lisa fully transformed. She felt like a dog, running freely through the streets, letting her instincts take over. Along the way, she even caught a small rabbit and buried it in the ground. For the first time in a long while, Lisa felt alive. All the burdens and routines that had held her down seemed to vanish. 4 days later, Will had to leave again for a business trip. His departure felt like a kind of liberation for Lisa. Now she felt free to fully embrace her new world. With her son, they played and pretended to be dogs. Lisa even bought dog bowls for their meals and a dog bed where her son slept happily. For the first time, Lisa felt at peace. That night, she slept soundly. In the days that followed, Lisa seemed like a new person. She was more confident and energetic. She started taking her son to library activities, mingling with other moms, and sharing her unique experiences and insights. Surprisingly, some of the other moms admitted they had similar feelings. They felt connected to different kinds of wild animals. This revelation made Lisa feel less alone, and she found comfort in their shared experiences. However, Lisa's transformation wasn't entirely understood by Will. When he returned home, he was confused to see his wife playing with their son like a dog, even eating from a dog bowl. Lisa tried to explain that this method had helped their son become more independent, especially when it came to sleeping. Though hesitant, Will eventually agreed to go along with Lisa's approach. Slowly, Lisa started trying to integrate her old life with her new one. Following Will's suggestion, she created a weekly schedule to balance time between her family and herself. One evening, Lisa decided to have dinner with her artist friends at a fancy restaurant. However, she found herself trapped in conversations that revolved only around kids and household life. Her friends seemed unable to connect with her the way they used to, making the dinner feel awkward. As everyone at the table engaged in their own conversations, Lisa could only sit in silence. She used to be a young artist full of brilliant ideas. Now, she felt like someone buried beneath a tired body and an empty mind. Feeling suffocated and uncomfortable, Lisa finally stood up. She grabbed a pie from the table and walked out of the restaurant. Outside, she felt as if she had just freed herself from an endless cycle of social pressure. After that incident, Lisa found a new escape. Whenever she felt stressed or overwhelmed, she would transform into her wild self and run freely through the streets like a dog. But this life of instinctual freedom brought new problems. One day, while playing with other dogs, Lisa lost control of her instincts. She gave in to her wild side and, without realizing it, killed her husband's beloved cat. Lisa had never really liked the cat. To her, Will had only kept it without giving it much attention. But the cat's death became a moment of reckoning for Lisa. Just how far had she changed? The next morning, Lisa woke up with an indescribable mix of emotions. Regret washed over her as she realized what had happened. She decided to bury the cat she had killed, but couldn't bring herself to tell Will, who was away on a business trip. When Will returned, his seemingly indifferent attitude only fueled Lisa's long-suppressed anger. Overwhelmed with emotion, Lisa poured out all her frustrations. She felt that for years she had lost herself in this marriage. Will had a job, a social life, and time for himself, while she was stuck in an endless routine, taking care of their child and the house without any time for herself. No one appreciated everything she had done. It made her feel trapped in this marriage. But Will looked confused, unable to understand how the brave woman he once knew had changed so drastically. In her distress, Lisa stepped outside. Under the cloudy sky, she lay on the grass, her body curling up like a dog beside the shadow of her mother from the past. After a long moment of reflection, Lisa finally voiced her decision to Will. Lisa felt they needed to separate. She needed space and time to find the person she had lost. Will was silent for a long time before finally asking, "Do you regret having a child?" Lisa's only response was, "I don't know." Will didn't agree with the divorce, but he didn't reject it either. He only asked for time to process everything. The next morning, Will left the house, and the two of them began living separate lives. Lisa tried to seek support by meeting with other mothers and sharing the conflict she was experiencing with Will. She was surprised to learn that many of them felt the same way, trapped in the role of a mother without space for themselves. A few days later, it was Will's turn to take care of their child. As Lisa placed their child into the car, she realized this was the first time she had truly left them since they were born. With the free time she now had, Lisa went to return some books to the library. However, the librarian told her that the books weren't from that library. Then, with a meaningful look, the librarian said, "There's a new light in your eyes." Those words felt like a reflection of Lisa's journey so far. She felt like she was finally becoming whole again. With newfound excitement, Lisa picked up the paintbrush she had abandoned long ago. Each stroke on the canvas was filled with bright colors, like an explosion of joy that had been suppressed for so long. Meanwhile, Will, who was taking care of their child, began to understand the weight of a mother's role. He had just made pasta for the little one, but within seconds their child knocked the plate onto the floor. With patience, Will cleaned up the mess while holding their child in his arms. He was beginning to see how much Lisa had sacrificed for their family. When Will returned their child on time, Lisa felt that she had gained something more than just time for herself. She felt alive again, with creative ideas flowing freely. After lunch, she sent Will on his way, and they agreed that he would pick up their child again the following Saturday. The next day, Lisa took her child to the park. She now seemed much warmer and more cheerful. There was a clear change in her, as if she had undergone a major transformation. During the day, she played with her child, laughing freely without any burden. And at night, when her child was asleep, Lisa poured her soul into her art. Lisa realized that being a mother was not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it was a role filled with deep strength and courage. It might be one of the most brutal and beautiful experiences a person could go through, almost like facing death. But within it, there was also a rebirth. Lisa, at last, had found her new self. A few days after her exhibition, Lisa finally managed to hold her first art show. The theme was motherhood, and her works told the stories of the experiences she had shared with her friends, especially those depicting mothers in despair and beautifully preserved animal mummies. Her friends were grateful that Lisa could express her pain through painting, something they might have struggled to articulate themselves. Not only her close friends, but several artists also came to see her work. They praised her paintings and recognized Lisa's effort as provocative and deeply meaningful. However, one thing took Lisa by surprise. The librarian she had once met, who had somehow become an important part of her journey, was there at the exhibition. For a moment, Lisa wondered, was the librarian just a figure in her mind? Maybe they were part of her own redemption process. After seeing the exhibition that day, Will finally began to understand what Lisa had been feeling. He realized that he should have been supporting and encouraging her to never give up on her art all along, but he hadn't. Sincerely, Will apologized to Lisa, and though emotions ran high, she forgave him. The two of them made an effort to find peace with each other. Wanting to bring their family closer to nature, Will took Lisa and their child on a camping trip in the forest. It became a way for them to reconnect and rediscover a sense of tranquility. Not long after, Lisa gave birth to their second daughter, and with that, the story came to an end.